Hi, welcome to Foxy Little Nuggets. This piece, it's not news. It's something I think is very interesting. I've done a little bit of research on it, and it actually could be quite frightening. It's not too long a piece, I think, but it. I was startled, and in fact, when I was researching this, it haunted me because of what happened past and what's happening present and what will happen future. I want to start though with a thing called Mouse Utopia. And no, this isn't Disneyland. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, an American researcher called John Calhoun, he built a closed colony for mice. It had food, water, protection from predation, there was no disease pressure, and there was enough physical resources for thousands of mice. It sounded like paradise. It became hell. At first, the mice spread rapidly. The population rose. The system appeared successful. But then the social order began to decay. Crowding did not mean simply too many bodies in one place. It meant too many bodies with too little meaningful territory, too little stable hierarchy, too little purpose, too much forced proximity. If you like, decadence. The mice didn't have to work. They didn't have to patrol. They didn't have to get territory, work for mates. Then the males began to fragment. Soon, some of them became hyper-aggressive. They attacked females, rivals, young. Some withdrew completely. They became autistic. Calhoun famously described it as, some as the beautiful ones. Mice who groomed themselves, avoided conflict, avoided mating, became homosexual. Some retreated from normal adult behaviour, kept quiet, reserved, guarded. The females changed as well. Many became aggressive and masculine. Some stopped nesting properly. They abandoned their young or failed to rear them. The normal bond between mating, parenting, territory and survival broke down. Eventually, even when there was still food and water, the colony stopped reproducing entirely. The mice had not run out of calories. They'd run out of social function. And the experiment ended not with famine, but with sterility, isolation, violence, and collapse. He repeated the experiment over 30 times, and every time it ended the same way. Now we must be careful. Humans are not mice. Cities are not cages. Culture is not biology alone. But the comparison is disturbing. Because it is not about cheese and water bowls. It's about what happens when abundance removes struggle, when crowding removes privacy, and when social roles collapse. The human mind can handle about 100 to 130 people. That's the limit, really, for how many people it can know, understand, relate with, etc. And that's no surprise, shall we say. If you look at the average number of people in a corporation, it's around 100. If you look at the number of people in a Roman centurion, it's 120, 130. Most villages were between 100 and 150 people, medieval-wise, between 100 and 150. Churchgoers, any sort of church congregations, between 100 and 150, and so forth. It takes a village of 150 people. Because that's how humans organise themselves, traditionally. When humans lived in the countryside, they had stable communities. They'd have lots of babies. The community would raise the babies. When people went into cities, there were vastness. Crime increased because you didn't know anyone, so therefore you felt no connection to them. In the countryside, religion was important. In the city, religion was abandoned. And this has been seen time and time again. In the countryside, you breed. In the city, you don't. There's more resource necessary for breeding. Not everyone does it. And that's the problem we have now. We look at modern humanity. We're not overpopulating in the simple old sense. In fact, many developed countries, we're now facing the opposite, a collapse in birth, the same as what happened to the mice. Birth rates are falling below replacement. And indeed, even in Africa, where the replacement rate is higher, that rate has fallen from 8 or 9 children down to 4, sometimes 3. Uganda went from 9 children. It's currently sitting at, I think, 3.5. Still growing, but the rate has slowed. And as more and more Ugandans move into cities, as more and more women are educated, as there is more and more wealth in Uganda, that rate is still falling. And in fact, since 2010, Uganda's birth rate has halved, and it will continue to do so, thanks to the smartphone. Globally, though, we've created something psychologically similar to Mouse Utopia. Vast populations packed into urban systems, fed by technology, entertained by screens, governed by apps, bureaucracy, stripped of a rooted community, and told that every inherited role is oppressive. Men are less physically necessary than before. The old male bargain, protect, provide, build, father, sacrifice, has been mocked. It's been taxed. It's been outsourced and replaced by state systems. So some men become aggressive and useless. Others retreat into, imagery of naked ladies or whatever takes them on, into gaming, gambling, drugs, grooming, passivity, permanent adolescence. And we're seeing that. And my God, my son, sorry, Tom, if you're watching, he's almost there. Women, meanwhile, generally have become more educated, more independent, more liberated than at any point in history. This is not in itself a bad thing. Freedom is good, but every freedom comes with a consequence. When society tells women they don't need no man, there's no children, there's no home, there's no sacrifice, and no biological clock. Many discover it's too late, that nature was not abolished by a university seminar. They sit there and they think, haven't I done well? And now I'm 40 and childless and lonely. I've got no children, I've got no husband. I'm about to enter my later years without any kind of backup. This is an actual syndrome now of older women alone. And they're coming to realise that what they sacrificed for career and money and status has cost them a lot more than they thought. They treated children as an inconvenience. They thought families were outdated machinery. And now they're lonely. More than that, though, politicians often look baffled when they see a population decline, and yet they are the ones that force women into work. They are the ones that tax and tax and tax and mean you can't have the wherewithal to afford to have a child. They are the ones that have forced prices up by continually dicking about, basically, with economies, instead of allowing people to become wealthy enough to afford children. But it's not just economics, although economics massively matters. Housing is too expensive. There aren't enough houses. We should not be having forced immigration of 10 million people over the last 20 years. Without that, think how much housing stock would be available. Think how cheap housing would be. If you suddenly had a child, you'd be able to buy somewhere more suitable. If you've got 2 children, you've just got another one on the way. You can stand up and go from a 2 to a 3 bedroom or even to a 4 bedroom. As well as that, there is the insecurity of work. It used to be get a job, do it for life. Now, average 7 jobs per person at the moment. Childcare costs are through the roof. But beneath that, there's a deeper spiritual and social failure. People do not reproduce simply because the spreadsheet says they can afford it, although that matters. They reproduce because they believe the future is worth fighting for and entering. And so many people now say, I don't want to bring a child into this future. It's terrible. Mouse Utopia died when the animals stopped behaving as though tomorrow mattered. And that's a warning, because we're doing the same. But it's not hopeless. Human beings can think, mostly. Mice cannot reform their policy. Mice cannot rebuild structures and marriage and societies. Mice cannot revive civic pride or spiritual seriousness. They cannot provide and build for a local community. They cannot reward work or restore public safety. They cannot give the young a reason to believe that they're not merely consumers in a collapsing shopping centre. Mouse Utopia ended because they said the mice felt there was no way back. But we do. If we can stop pretending that comfort is civilization. A society does not survive because it has food, housing and entertainment. They're important, of course, but we need more. We need men and women still to believe in each other, still to have relationships, still form families because they want to, still raise children, lots of them, and still think that the future is positive and can improve. Think of the technology we have now compared with 30 years ago. Think the technology we'll have in 30 years' time. Think of the medical advances from 30 years ago and think what it will be in 30 years' time. The core science, if you want to look it up, is have a look at John B. Calhoun's Universe 25. It was behavioural sciences. It is horrific when you read everything that went on. I didn't go into detail on this because, well, scary. But it is very, very well worth the reading. But I do hope I've put some hope in your heart. We are a collapsing society because of these things, but it's not too late. Too late for me, but the young need to take the risk to have children. Lots and lots of children. Or it's all going to collapse and we're going to end up in Mouse Utopia. I hope that's been informative. Thank you very much. Goodbye.